Hello everyone, I803886SX, and today we are going to talk about migrating WDS Windows Deployment Services to Server 2022. Now, before I get anywhere further into this video, you'll notice in front of you these servers clearly say WSUS 16 and 22 respectively. Well, that was my mistake, and changing that back, especially for a test lab, is going to be more of a pain than just leaving it as is. So we're going to leave it as is. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing this is I couldn't find a clear, concise answer through the Googling or the research or whatever you want to call it. Almost every piece of instruction I did come across either involved Server 2003 or Server 2008. Not relevant to our case here. Nothing from 2012 and beyond. Now, at the time of recording, Server 2012 and Server 2012 R2 are becoming almost end of life. I think either the next year, 2023 or 2024 sometime, that Microsoft is officially going to end support on those two. And I'm sure there are a number of you that have WDS servers running those operating systems. And it is very possible that there is a better way to do this. But this is the way I did that was successful. It's still pretty straightforward regardless. If you have better ways to go about this, or if I'm just a fool and didn't find the right stuff, well, feel free to tell me about it in the comment section. So first thing is first, you want to go to your WSUS box, the new one, and we're going to install Windows Deployment Services. You want to match this up with exactly what the old server was. I did this before I started recording. I had both Deployment Server and Transport Server installed, so that's what we're going to do. Now, while this is doing this, let's go to our old box, which in our case is going to be 2016. You want to open up services in whatever way you can get to it. It doesn't matter. You just got to get to the Windows services. And down towards the bottom of the list, you'll see Windows Deployment Services Server. Yours will likely be running. Go ahead and right-click and stop. I already disabled it, so all this is going to be grayed out. Just go ahead and stop it and disable the service if you want. And 2016 is not quite to that point of being end of life, but if you want to be proactive, or you find this video in, say, 2024, 2025, and you actually run into this problem, well, as long as YouTube doesn't take me down, this will be here. Another thing to note, too, while you're waiting, there are a couple shares that WDS creates. The only one we need to worry about is deployment shares. This other one will be recreated. Just notice deployment share with a $sign, and note the folder path. And then we're going to go to the properties while we're waiting here. And we're going to go to sharing. And just notice the share name. Notice the permissions. And just take note of it. Every setup is going to be different. I have an account called MDT that's not a domain admin that does most of the dirty work. That's a good habit to get into. Don't hand domain admin rights to just anybody. So same here, we have system, MDT, and administrators, full control. And you'll notice that inheritance is disabled. We will have to disable that on our new share. MDT does not automatically see this, so bear that in mind. So back to our new server, and we have success, so we will carry on. In WDS, as before I closed, you saw that that was installed. The other things we'll need to do, I already did them, but you want the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit MDT, the deployment workbench. We want to install that, followed by the assessment and deployment kit, and the assessment and deployment kit pre-installation environment add-ons. I believe these are the Windows 11 variants of these. There's a Server 22 variant that would work just fine. No wrong answer in this case. Just have the latest version you can find, or rather the latest stable version you can find. And I do have some cleanup to do here, so I am going to do that right now. See, something went wrong in my first demonstration, so let me clean that up real quick. These folders are not created just yet. So now we will browse embarrassing. It would help if you get your server names correct. So the only folder we care about here is going to be this deployment share. Let's go to town. This will literally take everything that was in your old WDS environment and copy it over. My environment is small. Again, it's a test environment, so there's not going to be a whole lot to transfer. If you have a bigger environment that has dozens of applications, then you will want to go ahead and give this a little bit of time. And mine's actually going pretty fast, so that's not anything I'm going to question. Well, maybe a long 5 seconds. That's okay. Well, now we doubled our time to 10 seconds. Listen, mileage may vary on how fast this copies. Storage is always a thing. A lot of companies don't like to invest a ton in their imaging servers. This is in a test lab using an HP ProLiant DL380p Gen 8. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the server itself is, but the CPU or specs wise, but that's what we got. Okay, so that is copied. And we will find a deployment workbench and open that guy up. And this is what you shall see. I also forgot to do something already, so we're going to go circle back. We're going to right click our deployment share. We're going to share it out. And it does the vast majority of the work, so all you have to do is add that $sign in this case. Locations, and select our server. I'm not even sure if we need that exactly, but we're going to add it in. T. There we go. So sharing is done. Now we need to do the security part. And we go to advanced. We will disable inheritance. We'll convert the permissions. And we're going to remove these bottom 3 to match what we have over on our old server. Hold control. Leave everything else. And we have full control. So we can minimize that folder for the time being. Let's open up ourselves a deployment share. And we will just do that. We'll do the defaults. Now, we're not quite ready yet, so we'll have to do a little bit of some work, but to demonstrate, we have our application, we have our task sequence, and we have operating systems. I don't have any drivers on here, so you won't see any, but that would be in there too if you did have drivers. But immediately you'll notice that there's a problem. Old server name. Very easy to correct. There's two places where you got to make changes. The first one was under General tab. The second one's going to be under Rules. You got to edit the Bootstrap.ini to reflect the changes. Now, I don't recommend using password1 or any really generic password like that, but this is a test environment. This will be gone by the time this is uploaded. Who cares? So now your next move is that we're going to have to update the deployment share. And we're going to go with the default here. So I want to show you what's going to happen. Next. I believe this is going to flag and it's going to do a complete update. This will take some time even in the smallest of environments, so yep, so this is going to create a new image. I have no idea how long this is going to take, but if it does take a few minutes, then I will go ahead. Okay, so made a whole list of changes here. If you're really interested, you may copy whatever files you want to, or see what it copied rather. I'm not going to for this particular exercise. Now, in theory, this should be it. In theory, from the deployment workbench, as far as that's concerned. So, we want to now create that WDS directory. And we will simply do that by going to Windows Deployment Services. Configure. Integrate. Default is good here. We're going to respond to everything with the demonstrations, making things a little less painful. We'll add images to the server now. So where are we going to go get this? Well, we're going to go to our deployment share. I think that's where it is. Let's double check that. I think we're looking for a light touch PE, which is what we got. Now, it's a little trick here because WDS says go to the root of the installation DVD and go get your boot file. Don't do that because you will not touch all that work you did in the deployment toolbench. Okay. Except it does. That's very interesting. If we got to go a little bit further down, would be my guess. We'll see. See what that does. God, that is really interesting. Well, I guess I'm going to have to figure out what happened offline on that one, because this should be taking that, so I'm not entirely sure why we're not seeing anything. You know, let's cancel this. Let's see. We'll just install it. We'll just put a boot image on. We'll cancel the wizard. Okay, so I think I know what went wrong. You just don't select the that checkbox to add an image, because there's no actual install images going to go on. No sweat. And now we have our image. Not a terribly big image, but who cares? Nothing in install images. Who gives a rip? So now we should be ready to test. And if you want to be sure, you'd see this IP of 10.121.123, which I know is DHCP, but for demonstration purposes, doesn't matter. Yes, 10.121.123. So once we get past this little section here, and maybe it'll go faster, I don't know. It looks like this one wants to go fairly fast, at least it wants to jump a couple at a time. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing here. Yeah, it's kind of just going slow now, so we'll probably cut this little section out. Alright, we're almost there, so we will embrace our next step. And I didn't realize this almost looks like the Windows 11 loading screen, which is okay. And we got our Microsoft Deployment Toolkit boot. And we shall see how this goes. Well, we're getting the Bootstrap settings, so I thought this always worked regardless whether we had naming conventions right, but I could be wrong. Custom rules. Alright, so far so good. It is VM, so without the VMware tools, so it's going to be a little bit lanky, but no valid name. We'll join a domain because we can. We'll select both applications. And there is one thing in my task sequence. It does install .NET Framework 2.0 through 3.5 regardless. So I know you probably believe me or you don't believe me, but okay. Yeah, so this is checked off. This .NET Framework 3.5 is checked off. So that should install towards the tail end. This is just going to format and partition the disk. This is all fine. Okay, so for installing the operating system, we don't have to hang around for that entire time. So this is going to take a little bit. So with the magic of video editing, we'll go through this right now. We are in a process of a reboot. And this part of it is largely like your standard Windows install. So I thought here anyway. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. And this will take a couple minutes to get ready like anything else. Okay, so we are now in the process of another restart. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I have no idea what's going to happen here next. There we go. This is all stuff that if you're building WDS servers or migrating them, you have seen this part before. I think we'll skip ahead here, and as soon as we get to the next part where WDS actually does something, then we'll continue from there. And we get to the desktop. And any minute now, we should see the final stages of our imaging process take place. There we go. And yep, and it's installing .NET Framework 3. And if we want to do this on a Windows 11 image, it's exactly the same procedure. Found that out earlier today. Not sure if it'll cooperate with Server 2016 or not, but I know it does in 2022. So a little fun fact about Windows 11, if you're using WDS and you're imaging it on something older like this particular system, it will actually install. It skips all that check for the TPM and processors. It skips all that. It will allow you to image a machine and it will bring it up. And considering that this is a 10-year-old hardware that we're working with, I find that pretty impressive. Let's see what we got here. Does it say? Oh, yes, it does. So we have a. Oh, here we go. 2 6-core E5 2640. That's what we got in here. I don't know if that was high end or low end back in the day, but right now it's functional end, so I don't care what it was. Yeah, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's taking a while to install Chrome. There we go. Notepad ++84. And apparently I have BitLocker on this one. Survey says success. Is it though? So we got Google Chrome. So Google Chrome's working. And there's your Notepad++. I know this is going to be one component of this you're going to have to take my word for. Let's see if my local admin password does the job. Yeah, where's the Control-Alt-Delete option? Okay, there we go. Control-Alt-Delete. There we go. The other unfortunate thing is that I don't remember the password 100% on this, so it was one of 3 things. But it looks like the one that I made up for it did work. So, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this, you have successfully migrated your semi-modern or even modern WDS server over to a server 2022. And of course, any tools that I used here today, any syntax I used will be down there in the description. Although on the application side, we didn't have to do anything, but we'll put it in there anyway, just because I'm a good sport like that. But also do bear in mind that Microsoft does change things up all the time because Microsoft. So a link may go out of relevance at some point or another. I'm not entirely sure. If you have something that is a better practice or a better way to do this, I'd like to hear about it. But if you follow this, you will be able to migrate your WDS over. So we know my way works. Who knows this is the best, but it works. So if you have any questions or comments or even constructive criticism, as always, feel free to leave them in the comments section. As always, thank you for watching.